A missile tears a hole in a steel warship. Water roars in. Thousands of tons of ship start to die, but 3 doors stand between floating and sinking. Why 3? How do sailors lock them in seconds? And why does one open door doom the whole ship? Today you'll see the exact mechanism that keeps steel on top of water when everything says it should go down. Let's strip this down to the basics. A steel ship weighs thousands of tons. Steel is heavier than water. So how does it float? The answer is volume. The ship's hull pushes aside a huge amount of water. As long as the weight of that pushed aside water is greater than the weight of the ship floats. That's displacement. It's not magic, it's math. Inside the hull, most of the space is air. Air weighs almost nothing. So even though the steel itself is heavy, the overall package, steel plus air, is lighter than the same volume of seawater. The ship displaces more than it weighs. It floats. Now a missile hits. It tears a hole. Seawater rushes in and replaces the air. That space no longer helps you float. It hurts you. The ship now weighs more and displaces less. If enough compartments flood, the math flips. The ship weighs more than the water it pushes aside. It sinks. But here's the key. A ship isn't one big empty box. It's divided into dozens of smaller boxes, watertight compartments. Each one is surrounded by steel walls called bulkheads, and each bulkhead has a door or a hatch that can seal tight. When you close and dog those doors, each compartment becomes its own isolated container. A hit floods one compartment. You lose that box. But if the doors around it are shut, the water stops there. The other compartments stay dry. You still have enough air-filled volume to keep the ship afloat. That's the principle. Contain the damage. Preserve the reserve buoyancy. There's another danger most people don't know about. It's called free surface effect. When water sloshes around inside a flooded compartment, it shifts the ship's center of gravity. If the water can flow freely from side to side, it makes the ship unstable. A small flood with a big free surface can roll a ship over faster than a huge flood that's trapped and still. Sealed compartments stop the slosh. They keep the water in one place. That protects your stability. The Navy has a system for this. It's called setting material condition. There are different levels. Condition X-ray is normal cruising. Some doors are open for ventilation and access. Condition Yoke is for heavy weather or extended alerts. More doors are closed. And then there's Condition Zebra. That's the highest state. General quarters, battle stations. When the ship goes to ZEBRA, every fitting marked with a Z gets shut and dogged. Every watertight door, every hatch, every valve on a fire main or a vent trunk. The ship becomes a honeycomb of sealed boxes. Zebra is not comfortable. It's hot. It's hard to move around. Sailors have to take long detours through the few open routes. But it works. When a ship is in ZEBRA and a missile hits, the water hits a wall. It can't spread. The crew didn't have to react after the blast. The boundaries were already set. The doors were already shut. The ship was ready. That's the doctrine. Seal before you need it. Because once the water is moving, you're already behind. Sailors train to close a watertight door in under 10 seconds. Spin 8 dogs. Check the gasket. Verify the seal. Then move to the next one. Speed matters, but preparation matters more. If the door was already closed when the missile came in, you just saved the ship without even knowing it. This is why 3 doors beat the ocean. It's not about strength. It's not about pumps. It's about keeping the air inside and the water out. And doors are the simplest, fastest, most reliable way to do that. Close them, dog them, trust them. They'll hold the line. So what exactly are the 3 doors? Let's walk through the chain. Door by door. Boundary by boundary. Door 1 is the immediate boundary. It's the watertight door or hatch on the compartment that got hit. The second the missile strikes, that space starts flooding. If anyone is still inside, they have seconds to get out. As they go through the door, they dog it shut behind them. If no one can get out, the door still gets closed from the outside. You sacrifice that compartment to save the rest of the ship. It sounds brutal. It is. But it's also survival. That first door traps the bulk of the water right at the source. Every watertight door has a set of metal bars called dogs, usually 8 of them around the frame. When you spin the central handle, all 8 dogs rotate and press against the frame. That squeezes a rubber gasket between the door and the bulkhead. The seal is tight. Water can't pass through unless the gasket is damaged or the door wasn't dogged all the way. That's why the Navy drills this obsessively. Dogging a door wrong is the same as leaving it open. Door 2 is the secondary boundary. It's the next watertight door on the path the water would take if door 1 failed. Usually 1 compartment away, across the next transverse bulkhead. Transverse means it runs across the width of the ship. These bulkheads are the main structural dividers. If the hit warps door 1's frame, or if the blast blew the door open, water will pour into the next space. Door 2 is already shut if the ship is in ZEBRA. The flood stops there instead. Here's the part that sinks ships when crews forget it. Water doesn't just flow horizontally through doors. It rises. A compartment floods on the lower deck. Water climbs up a ladder trunk or a cable passage or a ventilation duct. Suddenly you've got flooding 3 decks above the hit, in a space that should have been dry. That's progressive flooding through vertical paths. Door 3 seals those paths. It's the closure on the trunk, the hatch at the top of the ladder, or the valve on the vent line. The Navy marks these fittings with a big black Z inside a circle, zebra fittings. When the ship goes to battle stations, every Z-marked fitting gets closed. That includes the vertical routes. Now the water can't sneak around your other 2 doors. It's boxed in on all sides and from above. But there's a problem. A door only works if it's actually shut, and in the chaos of damage control, it's easy to miss one. A sailor runs a fire hose through a doorway to fight a blaze. The hose keeps the door from closing. Or someone opens a hatch to pass up stretchers and forgets to dog it again. Or a communication cable is rigged through a trunk because the regular route is down. These are called breaches of closure. One breach can undo your whole 3-door plan. That's why modern ships use closure logs and fitting tags. Every zebra door has a tag that says who is responsible for it. During drills, damage control teams walk the ship with checklists and verify every single fitting, shut and dogged, green and tight. Any discrepancy gets reported and fixed immediately. It's tedious work, but it's the difference between theory and reality. A 3-door plan only works if all 3 doors are actually closed. Some navies mark their fittings with colors. The US Navy uses letters and symbols. Z for zebra, the highest condition. Y for yoke, the intermediate level. X for X-ray, normal steaming. A sailor sees a Z and knows, this stays shut unless you have a written exception. No excuses, no shortcuts. The system works because it's simple and it's absolute. 3 doors. First boundary at the hit, second boundary 1 bulkhead back, third boundary on the vertical path. Close them all and you create a box the water cannot escape. That box might flood completely. You might lose everything in it, but the rest of the ship stays dry, and a ship can lose several compartments and still float as long as the boundaries hold. USS Cole, DDG-67, Arleigh Burke-class destroyer, October 12, 2000. She was tied up pierside in Aden, Yemen, refueling. A small boat approached. It looked like a harbor service craft. It wasn't. 2 suicide bombers detonated 400 to 600 pounds of explosives against her port side. The blast tore a hole 40 feet high and 40 feet wide. It ripped through the hull and into the forward engine room and auxiliary machinery room. The spaces flooded instantly. 17 sailors died. The keel buckled. The ship took on a list. Electrical power failed in multiple sections. Firefighting systems went down, and seawater kept pouring in. Every damage control instructor will tell you, that hit should have sunk the ship. The size of the breach, the location in the engineering heart, the loss of power. But USS Cole did not sink. Damage control teams set boundaries. They closed every watertight door around the flooded spaces. They shored up weakened bulkheads with timber braces. They ran portable pumps to dewater adjacent compartments that were taking minor leaks. And they stabilized the list by counterflooding a tank on the opposite side. The ship stayed afloat. She was towed to a heavy lift transport and brought back to the United States for repair. The boundaries held. The 3-door principle worked. Now look at USS Stark. FFG-31, Oliver Hazard Perry-class frigate. May 17, 1987. She was on patrol in the Persian Gulf when an Iraqi Mirage fighter fired 2 Exocet missiles. The first missile hit the port side. It didn't detonate, but its rocket motor kept burning. It punched through the hull and ignited fuel and munitions. The second missile hit moments later and exploded. Fire swept through berthing areas and the combat system spaces. 37 sailors died. The ship was gutted. Aluminum superstructure melted. Wiring burned. But the hull stayed intact and the crew fought the flooding. They set boundaries around the damaged sections. They ran hoses. They pumped. And they kept Stark upright. It took hours, but they saved her. She limped to Bahrain under her own power. Again, boundaries and door discipline were the difference. The fire was devastating, but the flood didn't spread because the crew controlled the boundaries. Now the counterpoint. HMS Sheffield, D-80, Royal Navy, Type 42 destroyer, May 4th, 1982. Falklands War. An Argentine super-étendard launched an Exocet missile. It hit Sheffield on the starboard side. The warhead may or may not have detonated. Accounts vary. But the missile's fuel ignited a fierce fire. The fire spread rapidly. Electrical power failed. Pumps stopped. The ship lost pressure in the fire mains. The crew fought the blaze, but without power and water, they couldn't contain it. Sheffield didn't sink from flooding. She sank because the fire gutted her and she lost the ability to maintain watertight integrity. Power failure meant the crew couldn't run pumps or verify boundaries remotely. They had to abandon ship. 6 days later, Sheffield was under tow when rough seas opened her up and she went down. The lesson is clear. Boundaries matter, but only if you can maintain them. You need power. You need pumps. You need a crew trained to set closures even when everything is chaos. 3 hits, 3 outcomes. Cole and Stark survived because boundaries held and crews executed damage control by the book. Sheffield was lost because cascading failures broke the containment system. The difference wasn't luck, it was preparation, design, and discipline. Doors only save you if they're closed, dogged, and backed up by a crew that knows the plan and follows it under fire. The 3-door system isn't automatic. It's a human system, and humans make mistakes. So the Navy built checklists, drills, and inspections to turn the theory into reflex. Every ship has a damage control book. It lists every watertight fitting on the ship, every door, every hatch, every valve, and it assigns each one to a material condition, X-ray, yoke, or zebra. Before the ship goes to sea, the crew walks through and verifies the settings. During drills, they do it again. And when the alarm sounds for general quarters, every sailor knows which fittings are theirs to close. It's written down, it's practiced, it's muscle memory. The Navy's Damage Control Manual, NSTM-079, lays out the playbook. Set boundaries first. Identify the flooded space. Close all doors and hatches around it. Yeah, mark it on the DC chart so everyone knows it's lost. Then start dewatering. Portable pumps go into adjacent spaces to pull out any water that leaked past the seals. You check for cracks in the bulkheads. If you find one, you shore it. Shoring is when you brace a weakened wall with timber beams wedged tight. It's crude, but it works. A shored bulkhead can hold back tons of water for hours. If the ship develops a bad list, you counter flood. You deliberately flood a compartment on the opposite side to bring the ship back toward level. It sounds insane. You're adding more water to a damaged ship. But a ship that's healed over 20 degrees can't fight and can't launch boats. A ship that's level can do both. So you sacrifice one dry compartment to restore stability. It's a calculated trade. The whole system depends on knowing your ship. Sailors spend weeks learning the layout. Which door leads where? Which compartments are below the water line? Which trunks run vertically and which run fore and aft? Where the ZEBRA fittings are, where the pump hookups are. In the dark, with smoke and alarms and water rising, you don't have time to think. You have to know. Civilian ships follow different rules. The international standard is SOLAS, the Safety of Life at Sea Convention. SOLAS requires most passenger ships to survive flooding in any 2 adjacent compartments. That's the 2-compartment standard. Naval ships don't publish their standards, but damage control doctrine and design practice suggest many warships are built to survive more than 2. They have tighter subdivision, more bulkheads, and more redundancy. They're designed to take a hit and keep fighting. But design only gets you so far. The best subdivision in the world won't save you if a sailor leaves a door open or runs a cable through a hatch. That's why the Navy drills constantly. Door drills, shoring drills, pump drills, flooding simulations where they actually flood a training compartment and make the crew stop it. The drills are boring, they're repetitive, and they save lives. Here's the bottom line. A missile can punch a hole, fire can gut a ship, but progressive flooding is what usually finishes the job. Water spreads, it finds every open path, it climbs, it sloshes, and it sinks ships that should have survived. The only defense is boundaries. Sealed, dogged, verified boundaries. 3 doors between the ocean and the rest of your ship. First door at the hit. Second door 1 bulkhead back. Third door on the vertical route. Close them, check them, trust them. Simple actions, strategic outcomes. That's how steel stays afloat when everything says it should sink. If you want more deep dives into how warships actually survive hits, subscribe. Drop a comment and tell us which damage control system you want next. Pumps, shoring, or counter-flooding. We read every idea, and the best ones become episodes. This is how ships fight, and this is how they win.